Hello, our friends, Hearts Home family.
Hello there, welcome back.
So this was the first video we did, and it was entitled Your Parents, Grandparents, Kids, They've been doing this to us for hundreds of years. And yes, it's been going on for hundreds of years. What is that? Well, I guess you guys could tell by the little picture up there, the little montage. Well, we're going to go down a different road over here, a totally different route. And we're going to talk about one of our family members. And so, yeah, it's been a blessing to know, we call him Big Mike. And he sent us some photos, for one. He is somebody that has regular contact with his guides on a regular basis. Mike is an exceptional person, but there's a lot of exceptional persons out there.
There is, and we really enjoy Mike's company whenever we get to work with him, and I think he's exceptional because his I call it his star family. I think it's a star family. They watch him, and I feel that they watch over him because these energies that he sees, like these beings here, I feel it's a Merkaba, follows him on his walks. So it's really curious how this is, and it's consistent too. I mean, it's so consistent. He could probably send me a photo of them every day of the year, twice a day, and then 10 times on Sunday, just as he walks along, they follow him. And this is just part of his regular life. And these are the things that a lot of people don't experience. But I do feel if you want that and you work toward it, you can have that. You can have your star family right next to you.
Absolutely. As you can see, there's there's a geometric shape on the inside and almost what looks like it could be an eyeball looking out. Yeah. Because again, this is a being. Mm-hmm. When we are out of body, if it's been a while since we've left the body, chances are we're going to look pretty similar to this.
Yeah, we would. And I think that there is also a dimensional difference here too. Like the way we see that being and the way the being sees us are two totally different worlds, because we are dealing through different densities and different understandings, different frequencies. And when you start to change frequency, you start to change how you see things. I think a lot of people might say perception could be a frequency shift. That's probably the most common one that I can think of. That's a good example.
Absolutely. Sometime, I want to say between 93 and 95, I can't even remember when it was. All I remember is my daughter was young, so she was probably about 5 years old. It probably was around 93-ish. I awoke and saw a golden orb over my head, and it was big. It was the size of a basketball, I would say, and it was literally 18 inches away from my face. And it was a very clear eye inside of more of a perfect circle. And that eye shape, that ovalish eye shape, looking like we would look at an eye with eyelids. And it was so clear that this was a being, and I felt this was a very, very high frequency because it was pure gold. It was beautiful. And I know it was a guide just basically saying hi. And the reason was because I was in a period of massive rapid change. So Mike is embracing the tree quite literally.
Literally. Yeah.
Quite literally. He does practice Qigong. You could see his wife photographing him here. You could see off in the distance, here comes the guides.
And the energy is shifting already.
See the energy shifting. Now you might be able to make out there's energy around. You can see the central white part. Almost reminds me of a seahorse kind of shape. Mm-hmm. But you could see beyond that. Can you see it, Sen? Mm-hmm. You can see the energy around the central piece.
Yes, I mean things come out like in layers, so it's a little bit like layers of an onion as well. But this is really curious because there is a still shot of him completely still. And then as his wife takes his picture, things start to change in a way that is very, very unusual. And just like I think anybody else would be concerned after he sees those pictures. He says, what's happening to me? Am I disappearing? Because all these changes are on camera. It's crazy.
Yeah, and again, you can see now here it looks like kind of more circular. So I just want to point out, this is not the moon. This is not a random star, because we're looking at the same position. Now you notice the shadows too. They're still there. And then what happens is there's this frequency change that starts to happen. And here you can see it's in a different position. Now this looks like a straight line, but it could be that we were looking at it sidewise and now it's coming straight towards him. And here you see it coming to wrap around him, and you see this distortion. Now, I realize some people will say, well, on Evolutionary, where you have more people that are of a different mindset, you would have people say, this is just simply she moved the camera, it's all blurring. But we're going to give you some other shots of a historical perspective to keep in mind. But I'll let Cindy describe what's going on, as Mike had described it to us, that the guides came and wrapped around and he was feeling a vibrational change. Now, when I'm doing Qigong, often if I'm really doing it and I'm very focused, I'll see a blurring effect happening with my hands and my arms. As I'm moving them around, I'll see kind of like this type of thing happening. And what's really happening? Well, we're kind of shifting our attention from one layer of our energy body to another. We have multiple layers to our bodies. Again, when the physical body dies, it's just like shedding a shell. It's just like shedding a shell if you're, perhaps a crustacean. If you are a snake, it's like shedding your skin, so to speak. Or you could look at it like going from a larva form of a worm, basically to a moth, a butterfly, that larval stage to metamorphosis. But we literally are just kind of, our consciousness is stepping away from this physical density, but it's still there. That's it. It's just stepping away from this, removing our consciousness away from it, shifting our main focus to a different frequency. That's all it is. It's just simply turning a radio channel and dialing in a new, channel.
Go to the one where you can see her shadow, because I wanted to point that out. There was one, darn it, I don't see it there, but there is one where, So this is his wife. See the shadow there? It's like still. And I asked, because Big Mike, he was saying, am I disappearing? What's going on? And I asked him, I says, well, what did your wife see? Did your wife see the shifting, or is this just caught on camera? And he said, this is caught on camera. And I said, you're very much planted in the 3D. You are okay. This is something that's, it's shifting in another realm. The camera is picking it up, which is really, really amazing. I mean, I was just thoroughly just impressed with this and what he's doing. And Big Mike does do a lot of work, a lot of different mind, body, breath practices. He's very unique in the sense that he's really well read when it comes to health. I mean, it's just so fun when we get to sit and talk to him and we get to bounce ideas off of one another, and he has questions. He says, well, what is your take on this? And what is your take on that? And then, we get to go back and forth. So I just really enjoyed and appreciated these pictures and that he shared them with us, because you don't see this every day.
No, and isn't this cool? Look, I mean, it looks like his head's melting away. Yeah, it does. But it didn't melt away. And again, you can see his shadow is straight and his white shadow is right there too. But look at this, and even the clothes are distorted. So I just thought that was really cool, and we wanted to share this with you. This is, again, it's unique, but it's not unheard of.
Right.
And it's not totally uncommon. You will see these things happening. And we've talked about the rainbow body before, and it's something that happens. Again, it's mostly known with Tibetan Buddhism, and if you want to basically develop the Merkaba, then I would recommend doing the mantra Om Mane Padme Hum. And, it basically is about invoking that divine lotus, which is exactly that. It is a Merkaba. And, the Merkaba is our vehicle to fly totally up into the higher realms. This is how we go well past this control grid and can venture off to different worlds, different densities, interact with beings like the Galactic Federation. And numerous times, it's not an uncommon event for Cindy and I to be taken up to the ships, and that sounds crazy to some people. They just won't get it. But in reality, there is an aspect of us, the higher density consciousness parts of us will go up on the ships and get downloads, and we have been able to communicate to the Galactic Federation and our main contacts there, as well as the Devas and our contacts like Aset, who is known as Isis, and Lakshmi and Ganesha and Anandamayi Ma and Kuan Yin and White Buffalo Calf Woman and Yeshua. These are all our main guides. And the reality is there are aspects of us that can be with them all the time, but we are kind of purposefully isolated when we're in the body, and it's an apparent isolation. It's an apparent isolation for the purpose of having these experiences. But with regular steady practice, you can develop the rainbow body, you can develop your Merkaba, which will, basically give you the keys to the kingdom, so to speak.
I think this is something, though, that does take lifetimes to do. But just like anything else in life, you prepare today for tomorrow. You prepare yourself this week for next week. You prepare this life for the next life. So this is something that, if you have a desire to do it, there's got to be something in the background that raises those spidey senses to say, hey, I know this is a good thing. This is good for me. This helps me. And therefore you do it in this life. But I do think it does take many lifetimes to develop something to this level, but it's a very, very real thing that comes. And a lot of times I don't even know if how often this is. I look at the atmosphere, and I think our atmosphere that we have in these times makes it very difficult, but I do believe that there are crisp, pristine places where this could occur easier, where there's not so many toxins inside of them. I think that plays a part too, is how clean we keep our temple. And that's another thing Big Mike does. He keeps his temple very clean. He has some really cool devices and some cool methods to help keep himself running tip-top shape.
Absolutely. So here you see again an example from Tibet of a Tibetan Buddhist monk, and you can see how this looks like a lotus flower, and this is the light body. This is the light body activated. So what we saw with Mike was kind of the beginnings of this pattern. If we go back and we look at this distortion that's happening, this is the beginnings of that. It's the swirling of the energy. Again, we're consciousness, and consciousness can't be created or destroyed. It can only be transformed. And somebody had brought up a question about, the AI dragon and how it's trying to swallow up energies and swallow up souls per se. And it is trying to trap our source spark and this small portion that is us within these bodies, as this is just a small portion of us. And lately I've been getting a lot of glimpses of what I would call co-lives. These are simultaneous lives happening on Earth with my higher self having sent not just me here, this one particular aspect, but there's other me's out there. And they're having different apparent lives on different parts of the planet at all different ages. And it's serving a purpose because the higher self has goals to achieve. And when we go back up into like our 5D state of being, then we will have remembrance of many different lives. Because right now, there is this you, which maybe this portion of consciousness which you take to be you at this point in time, maybe that portion of consciousness has had 100 lives here on planet Earth per se. But the higher self might have 10,000 lives here on Earth. That's the reality of it. And each life is unique because it's not just the portion of the higher self that you would call you that's having this experience. There are other guides that are attached. There are other elemental beings that are attached to you, other forces of nature. There's aspects of Mother Earth that have merged with you that make every single incarnation unique.
And when we do decide to leave these bodies, it's very nonchalant. There was a time and a point where I in the beginning of my mission, and I feel okay, like safe, I can share this on HeartsOMMM, especially HeartsOMMM, because I know you guys are going to understand. But there was a time when I was able to have my body was down on earth and it was on my bed, and I was hyper aware of being taken up in the ship and having myself completely reprogrammed and basically activated for this mission specifically. And the curious part about it is I was me. I knew I was me, but I also knew that there was a thing on the bed that was like my body, but I had no attachment to it. I mean, the moment I went up in the ship, it's like, okay, there's this thing on the bed. I have no attachment to it. It's really no big deal. But then I found myself going back in it, and that was when I got to experience the idea that there is no time, because I really struggled with that. I'm like, there is no time. How could there not be time? I mean, we wake up in the morning, we go to bed at night. Is that not time? But the best way it was shown to me was the work that they did was probably 2 or 3 hours worth of work. But when I went back down to my body, it was very clear to me that only 10 minutes had passed. So in that sense, time, I guess, is just through different dimensions, or, and Mike made a good point the other day. He says, you ever notice how sometimes when we're outside and we're working with the trees and we're working in the garden, 4 or 5 hours go by like it's just 30 minutes, And it's like we're almost like in a different dimension when we're out there. We're so much happier. We're connected to the earth. We're vibing at a different rate, and time flies. It's great.
Yeah, and especially when we get out farther into the woods with the trees. And that's one of my biggest things I think I miss about living in New Mexico, because we were by this park we could go to. It's like maybe 10 miles away, and we go hike in the park. And most days we would not see a single person, not one single person most of the time. It was that isolated. I mean, shoot, we were probably surrounded by more mountain lions and cougars than people, I think, really out there. The peace was just... it was blissful, and it's hard to reproduce, and we do like where we are. But yeah, that was again a spot that could really enable you to expand your consciousness, because there wasn't any frequencies around. And we are in a little bit more dense part of the country than we were then. Granted, though, we had to make choices, and this is a better place to definitely grow food. And it's easier to survive winters if there's no power. But for spiritual practice, that was probably a little bit better. And here you see pure light rainbow body achieved. This was Chogyur Lingpa Rinpoche. And again, this is the work of, as Cindy was saying, often multiple lifetimes. So, it's not that Cindy and I have led lives of pure austerity in this go round, and this is why we've been gifted with our understandings. No, it's really work from past lives that still we're able to tap into. And, when we talk to Mike, again, Mike, he was very much in the system. He's now, in that, is he semi-retired or fully retired? I think he's fully retired. So he could really throw himself fully into the spiritual practices. But in this life, hey, he was just a normal businessman. That's the reality of it. But his chart says he's an ascended master. I mean, his chart says that he's achieved everything in other lives. So why come back at this point in time? Well, it's all about anchoring light. It's about helping others. And even if he's, doesn't have a channel per se like we do and is outwardly teaching, he's still anchoring light in his position. He's still holding a frequency which can affect everybody that's around him. Because again, we're all drops in this huge ocean of consciousness.
Mm-hmm. Because our vibration, our energy, it does this thing where if there is a room full of people and somebody in the room has a very high vibration, the other vibrations are going to reach to meet that vibration. So we have that going on. So when somebody is vibing as high as he is, and he could be sitting in a restaurant, he could lift the understanding of so many people and actually change a lot of their perceptions. And what happens then? Well, people are lifted up. They are letting go of things that weigh them down so that they can be lifted up. And he doesn't even have to do anything except for do his own spiritual practice, take good care of himself, be who he is, and allow that to do the work. But he is very special. His chart, very unique. Someone that I do see that came here to be a volunteer and to help where he can. And he carries a lot of the understandings that Mike and I have as well. And sometimes it is difficult to be out in the world around the regular goings-ons with people that are still in the system. But this is what we signed up for. We signed up to come down here, anchor ourselves in the muck, to help clear things out and help people change their perception and understand that there is something different. There is something other than the system that they see.
So I hope you got something out of this. Look forward to your comments and questions. As always, we're very grateful that you're part of the family. Much love, source bless, and namaste.
Namaste.